Hi everyone and welcome back to another bedtime adventure. I'm Michelle, the author of the Rescue Quest series, and today we're diving into the next 3 chapters of the first book in the series, which is also called Rescue Quest. So snuggle up, grab your favourite blanket, and let's get started with chapter 4, 5 and 6 of Rescue Quest. Chapter 4. Tom had only just rung the doorbell when his mum threw the front door open, her usually immaculate red hair wild around her face and her temper even wilder. "Your father is late," she exclaimed, frantically dialing the number on her mobile. "He knows how important this weekend is for me and your auntie. She needs this time away, and frankly, so do I. Work has been crazy this week." She walked away from Tom into the kitchen. Sighing, he closed the front door and followed her, noticing his sister Alice watching TV in the living room. "Yep, Dad forgot again," he thought. "Don't worry, Mum, I'm sure he'll be home soon," Tom said, pulling the stool over so he could reach the kitchen cabinet and pull out some bread and jars of peanut butter and jam. "He just forgets the time." "He's a grown man, Tom, and he has a watch. It's sweet the way you always stick up for him, but this time he's gone too far. This trip has been in the diary for weeks." She balanced her mobile phone between her shoulder and chin and started throwing things into a travel bag. Tom winced, remembering the missed phone call from his dad while he was sitting in the school broom closet. Maybe he was calling to explain he was delayed. If only he'd been brave enough to take the call, his mum wouldn't be so worried and cross. But there was no point thinking about that. Being brave just got you into trouble. He pulled his phone out of his pocket and looked at the screen. Just one missed call. His dad hadn't tried to ring again. Leaving his mum talking to someone on her mobile, he sneaked out of the kitchen and stood in the hall, hitting the redial button to call his dad back. As he waited for the call to connect, Alice bounced out of the living room. "Tom!" she squealed, throwing her arms around him. "Hi, Alice," Tom chuckled, loving how pleased his little sister always was to see him. She drove him crazy sometimes with all the questions she asked while he was trying to build a tricky redstone circuit in one of his Minecraft maps, but he knew he was lucky to have such a good relationship with her. Anna and her brother never seemed to get along, and Lev was an only child. "We're playing this weekend, right? You promised," Alice whined, her blonde curls bouncing as she jumped up and down. "Yep, we sure are. Now shh a minute. I'm trying to call Dad. I'll make some sign he's in a mo." Tom put his finger to his lips as the phone rang. He hoped his dad was just minutes away, but when the answer phone kicked in, he left a message anyway. "Hey Dad, it's me. Sorry I couldn't answer the phone earlier. I was, in a lesson," he lied. He never mentioned Hunter to his parents, not after Westdale. They had enough to worry about, what with his mum being stressed out all the time and his dad struggling to sell his games. "Mum's freaking out here because she's almost ready to go on her trip and you're not back yet. So can you call her or me when you get this message and let us know you're on your way? Okay, thanks, bye." Tom clicked to end the call and mentally crossed his fingers that his dad really was almost home. As he walked back to the kitchen to make sandwiches for himself and Alice, his mum streaked past him still on the phone and ran up the stairs 2 at a time. For an award-winning life coach, she really freaks out sometimes, Tom thought. He didn't understand much about his mum's job. She seemed to spend most of her time on video calls, talking to people who were unhappy, disorganised, frazzled, or all 3. Whatever she did, it paid well. Which was just as well, because the online gaming company his dad ran with Uncle Martin didn't seem to make much money. Tom had seen the red bordered letters from the bank that Dad shoved under the sofa cushions when he thought no one was looking. He spread peanut butter and jam on 2 slices of bread and folded them over, carrying them into the living room and handing one to Alice, who immediately stuffed it in her mouth and snuggled up next to him on the sofa. As Tom flicked on their shared PlayStation and fired up Minecraft, he could hear his mum banging closet doors upstairs. While he waited for his chosen world to load up, he wondered what would happen if his dad didn't come home before she had to leave. He knew the gaming conference that his dad and uncle had gone to was super important because his dad was wearing a tie when Uncle Martin picked him up in the car as Tom and Alice left for school. Dad never wore a tie. "You mark my words, Tom," his dad had said between gulps of coffee that splashed on his shirt. "This time it's going to be a success. Big Bad Games are going to love our new game and snap up the rights to it straight away. His dad and uncle had been working on their latest video game for almost 2 years now, and it was good. Tom had played the beta version a bit and suggested a few tweaks. He hoped the big corporation they were presenting to at the conference liked it enough to buy it. Perhaps he's late because it went so well and they're held up signing a contract or something, he mused. The sound of the doorbell ringing broke through Tom's thoughts. Yes, he thought, Dad's home. He ran to the front door and opened it, ready to give his dad a heads up his mum was on the warpath. But when he opened the front door, it wasn't his dad standing on the doorstep. Chapter 5. Hi, Tom. His grandmother grinned as she bustled into the house. Your mum having one of her moments, is she? She winked at Tom mischievously, and Tom couldn't help but grin back before giving her an enormous hug. He loved his Grandma Jo. She was utterly brilliant and not at all like his friend's grandparents. OK, she was old, she had a few hairs growing out of her chin, and sometimes used strange Irish phrases that he didn't understand. But she also had short, spiky red hair, was smart, funny, and loved watching him and Alice play Minecraft when she came over for Sunday lunch. What are you doing here, Grandma Jo? Tom asked. Not pleased to see me then. She raised her eyes and then laughed heartily, waving her hand when Tom looked flustered. I'm only codding you. Your mam rang asking if I could pop over and stay with you in case your dad didn't arrive home in time. And it looks like he didn't. She glanced past him into the kitchen. Dad's just running a bit late, Tom said, defending his father. Grandma Jo smiled. You forget I know my son well enough to know when he's lost track of time and wound up somewhere he didn't expect for longer than he meant. Tom sighed and leaned against the doorframe, feeling older than his 11 years. Mum is seriously cross this time, he admitted. She'll get over it, Grandma Jo replied, walking past Tom into the kitchen and glancing at the chopping board. Peanut butter and jam sandwiches, is it? Yum, my favourite. Tom grinned again. Grandma Jo always had a way of lighting up a room and his mood. They were just preparing a second round of sandwiches when Tom's mum ran down the stairs, hoisting an overnight bag over her shoulder, puffing and blowing. Oh, Josephine, thanks so much for coming over. I just knew John was going to forget about my trip, she said, air-kissing Grandma Jo and grabbing a bottle of water out of the fridge. No problem at all, Eleanor, Grandma Jo replied. You know this is the only place I get my Minecraft fixed. She winked at Tom, who grinned back, his mouth full of sandwich. A horn sounded loudly outside, and Tom's mum grabbed her things and headed for the door. Bye, lovely, see you Sunday, she called out, slamming the door behind her. Bye, Mum, Tom and Alice called out, but she was already gone. Tom noticed stress leaving the room like air escaping from a balloon, but he felt sad at the same time. She hadn't even asked how his day had been. So how's school? Grandma Jo asked him, as if she was reading his mind. Oh, it's okay, he lied, cutting the crusts off Alice's sandwiches for her as she walked back into the kitchen with her empty plate. It's not true, Alice said, frowning. Tom hates school. What? Grandma Jo said, looking shocked. I thought you loved school. Hunter Graham is a meanie. I don't like him either. I'm going to play with the horses, Alice commented in her staccato way, piling sandwich triangles on her plate and trotting back into the living room. Tom guessed she was going to play in one of the worlds he'd recently created for them, one where he'd spawned lots of horses, Alice's favourite animal. Hunter Graham, eh? Grandma Jo said, one eyebrow raised. Tom knew he couldn't hide anything from his grandmother. She seemed to have a sixth sense for trouble. He put down his sandwich and rested his chin on his hands. He's a boy at school. He's really mean to Anna and Lev. He already broke 2 pairs of Anna's glasses and he's always pulling Lev's hair. He makes fun of me for being so small and other stuff. Tom sniffed, playing down Hunter's bullying but still feeling the tears sting behind his eyes. He blinked them away. Grandma Jo sat back in her chair and wiped some jam which had fallen out of her sandwich onto her chin. She sucked the red sweetness off her finger, leaving space for Tom to continue. Anna and Lev want to come up with a plan to stop him, but I know it will just make things worse, like it did at Westdale. Everyone knows bullies just get tired of picking on people after a while. He'll move on to someone else soon, and then everything will be okay. You know, your dad was bullied at school when he was about your age, Grandma Jo said quietly, noticing but not mentioning the bruise on his arm that Tom was rubbing absently. What? You never told me that, Tom replied, his eyes widening. Yep, there was a boy in his year who used to knock all his books off his desk when he walked by and push him over in the playground. He called your dad Geek Boy and threatened to thump him if he told a teacher, she continued. No way, poor Dad. Didn't last long, though. Not once I intervened. What do you mean once you intervened? Tom sat forward in his chair, intrigued. Could his grandma help him and his friends too, he wondered. Tom, Alice yelled from the living room, I need you. There's something funny going on with the TV. I'll be there in a minute, Tom called back, wanting Grandma Jo to finish her story. Here's the thing, Tom. Bullies are bullies for a reason. They're not just born that way. In my experience, often something has happened that's hurt them, but they feel powerless to do anything about it. They lash out at other people to make themselves feel better, Grandma Jo said. Sometimes they deserve our sympathy. Tom remembered seeing Hunter and his uncle earlier and the look of sadness on Hunter's face. But he shook his head. No, Hunter does not deserve my sympathy. He's just a bully and I hate him, he shouted inside his head, feeling his anger rising. It doesn't matter what's going on. He shouldn't pick on other people, he said a bit too loudly, causing Grandma Jo to raise her eyebrows again. Tom immediately felt bad for raising his voice. It wasn't his grandma's fault he had to hide away at every break time. I'm going to help Alice, he said, pushing his chair back and leaving the kitchen. But when he walked into the living room, Alice wasn't there. Chapter 6. Where is she? Tom wondered, sitting on the sofa and calming down after his outburst in the kitchen. He could hear Grandma Jo running water in the sink to wash their sandwich plates, and he chewed his lip, feeling sorry again. He guessed she was giving him some space and felt a wash of gratitude. Perhaps I'll talk to her some more about Hunter later, he thought. Tom glanced at the TV screen where a picture of the Minecraft world he'd made filled the screen. He'd spent a week creating it, mining elements, chopping down countless trees to make planks of wood for Alice's stables, and to craft useful tools and weapons like iron pickaxes and shields in case mobs came attacking. He'd even made a kennel for his Minecraft dog, Fang. Alice's bear, Mr. Cuddles, was sitting up against one of the sofa cushions, looking for all the world like he was watching TV too. And Alice's plate with a half-eaten sandwich triangle was still on the coffee table that sat between the television and the sofa. But no Alice. Perhaps she's in the bathroom, he thought, picking up his controller. He was just about to log in so he could see his character, Steve, when he noticed another character on the screen. It was the Minecraft girl character, Alex. But she had a skin on that made her look remarkably like Alice. Tom squinted at the screen, leaning forward instinctively to see her more clearly. Yes, it definitely looked like his sister, long curly blonde hair and a pale pink t-shirt. This was strange because when they played together, Alice had always chosen an animal or unicorn skin for her character. Cool change, he thought. I didn't realise she knew how to do that on her own. Tom pressed the home button on his controller so he could log in, but something wasn't right. Nothing happened. He was meticulous about charging the controllers, so it couldn't have run out of charge. Tom picked up Alice's controller and pressed the home button on that one instead. He grimaced at having to use the pink controller, but again, nothing happened. Tom looked back at the screen, frowning. The character that looked like Alice was jumping up and down. How on earth is that happening, he wondered. Then Tom noticed the character was pointing at the floor. He peered closer to the screen again as the character moved back, and he saw some redstone blocks laid out in a pattern. He hadn't noticed them before because she'd been standing on them. But now that she'd moved back, he could make out the shape of what looked like letters. He spelled them out. H-E-L-P. Help. And that's the end of the next 3 chapters in Rescue Quest. I'll see you next time for more Minecraft adventures with Tom, Anna and Lev. Like, comment and subscribe so you don't miss out. Bye for now.